we're gonna do a little how-to on installing a bottom bracket, because I don't know how many bikes that come in here that have either no tube spacer or the tube spacer's wrong, and in the bottom bracket they're like, my cranks come loose, like my cranks don't spin, my bottom bracket's blown up. 99% of the time, all of those issues are because of this little tube spacer is not installed correctly. So this is very important. If somebody says that this little tube spacer is not important, don't ever listen to them about bike maintenance. And unfortunately, too, there's no like industry standard size for any of this. And yeah, the Merrick tube spacers are way too short for any BMX frame. But they come with extra washers, and usually if you put all of these washers in there, like, it makes it the correct size. But I'll show you how to do that. There's a normal mid 19 mil bottom bracket. Grease, super important. I always say you want to grease anything where metal touches metal. So first thing I always do, I take tube spacer of the bearings, put it on my fingers. And this one, I already know that we need some of these outside spacers on the inside. So I just always kind of make it the bottom bracket in my fingers. And then I hold it up to the bottom bracket shell. So it's like, so you can see if it's like nice and flush on the outside. And then if it's nice and flush on the outside, usually that's going to be good because it does go in like a smidge. So even if it doesn't go in all the way and like the bearing sits out like a tiny bit, like that's completely okay too. But the most important thing is that this tube spacer doesn't rattle around in the bottom when you take your tool out from pressing it in. That's how I always measure the bottom bracket tube spacer. Did this out randomly out of the bin, so you can see how different every tube spacer size is from the factory. There's no industry standard when it comes to this, which is real annoying. Making sure it's the right size so it fits tight is the most important part. We have a nice bearing press. I guess maybe we can do a video one day of how to do it without proper tools.
What, the hammer and a block?
Yeah. Yep. How to just hammer your bottom bracket in safely.
Gary.
Is that Gary Craig?
Dangles.
Dangles isn't here. Dangles is going to be here tomorrow.
Saw Brian Lane pop up.
Oh, so I'm going to have to take this one back out.
Why?
Because it doesn't have enough internal spacers in it. The tube spacers moved around. Come out. Sometimes our tool gets stuck. And look at this. I don't know if you can see this, but that tube spacer is loose.
Where? Like,
See it? You definitely should not be able to move the tube spacer around like that. So I'm gonna have to take it apart and just add another thin little inside the bearing. I always just use a real dull punch and just tap it back out. Boom.
whoop.
Under the workbench. Don't look down there. It would be nice as if the industry could figure out a standard for this.
Standard, yeah.
There it is.
Front roll.
Felt better that time. Yep.
No play?
Nope. Yeah. Shoo. That's it. And you can see this side is like a little bit, look at this bearing on this side. It's like a smidge out. It's not as far in. It's good. And then, where are the cranks, Danny?